Welcome into Mock Trial Masterclass, your guide to controlling the courtroom. I'm Luke and I want you to be a mock trial master. Let's talk about how you can make that happen. So I recently did a video on how to create a good victim direct examination, and in this video what we're going to go over is how to make a good defendant direct examination. And if you've watched that first video, you're going to find this one to be pretty similar, but with a couple of very important distinctions. So we're going to do exactly what we did in that last video. I'm going to pull up a witness statement from an old Tennessee mock trial case. I'm going to take you through what I did and would do reading it for the first time again, to let you in on my process and let you know exactly how to make a good defendant direct examination. Before we hop in, I want to remind you that if there's any topic or question you want to see covered in a future Mock Trial Masterclass video or podcast, please leave a comment in the description below. I love making videos on your comments. I do it all the time. So if you got something burning on your mind, please leave a comment below. I'd be happy to make a video about it. All right, let's dive in. So I have here the witness statement for the defendant in the 2017 Tennessee High School mock trial problem. The name is Hadley Gruber. Now, for a little bit of context about this case, Hadley Gruber was a minor who was being accused of more or less strangling an old man to death in the assisted living facility that she worked in. And the case was about deciding whether she would be tried as an adult. So what you're going to see is information that one helps or hurts, one side or the other on can she be tried as an adult. And you're also going to see stuff pointing to, or perhaps since this is the defendant's witness statement, pointing against the fact that she is responsible for this crime. So like we talked about with the victim direct examination, the first thing I'm going to do with a statement like this is I'm obviously going to read the whole thing to kind of take it all in. And then I'm going to go back through and highlight a few different important types of things. We're going to get to the emotion in just a second, but the first thing I'm going to highlight with the defendant direct is things that make them seem not guilty, facts that help the defense's side of the case. This is obviously very, very important if you are the defense, is to have the defendant give facts that are going to make them seem not guilty, or if you're in a civil case, not liable. So that's the first thing I'm going through here and looking for, and that's what I have highlighted green in what you're looking at now. So let's take a look at a few of the things that I've highlighted in green and talk them through so you know what I mean. So, all right, occasionally that meant being the bad guy because the Orange Wing residents did not always understand what was best for them. So a little bit of context here. The reason that the prosecution in this case was saying that this person strangled an old man is that he wouldn't eat the food that she was supposed to feed him as part of her job, and she just got upset. So I think this fact helps the defense because she's just explaining her process, and she's saying, yeah, there are times where they don't eat their food and we have to help them. I didn't strangle him to help him, but there are times where that happens. It's a point of clarification. I think it helps the defense. Let's see. I was on my way to yet another perfect grade. So the way that that's phrased, on the surface there in the witness statement is almost like a little snarky and sarcastic, like I was on my way to another important grade. And we wouldn't want the witness to deliver that line that way, but this does point to the fact that the witness had a perfect grade. That's an important detail, the fact that, she's good at her job. All right, next we have, he never asked to talk to me or to get my side of the situation. This is talking about the police investigator who you could argue, if you were the defense in this case, did a really bad job, especially not talking to the defendant as part of his investigation. So that's another really important point. And we'll look at one last one, this big chunk right here. See, some of Maple Leaf Manor's residents, that was the name of the assisted living facility, have strict diets, and Mr. Goodnov, the man who was strangled, was one of them. He suffered from a litany of health problems, including high blood pressure, high cholesterol, which meant no fried foods. So what this is kind of doing is explaining, hey, it was really important that I, as the defendant, got this person to eat the food that he needed to eat. Again, I didn't strangle him to get him to do that, but this is just further letting the letting the jury in on the process and helping us all really understand more of what is going on here. And there's some more facts I put in there in the green that are going to help the defense's side of the case, but you get the gist of what I'm going for. Points of clarification, points that are going to help the defense understand why the prosecution story might need more context, why they might not have heard the whole story from the prosecution. Just the kinds of facts that are going to accomplish those sorts of things. The second thing I'm looking for, like we talked about in the victim video, is I'm looking for emotion, and two types of emotion, just like we looked at in the victim direct examination video. I'm looking at happier points of emotion and sad points of emotion. Because with a defendant direct, you gotta let your defendant show some emotion. They have a natural stake in the case. They're either gonna be going to jail if they're found guilty, or they're going to be paying up a lot of money if they're found liable in a civil action. So whatever the situation, your defendant has an emotional stake, and you need to be able to take advantage of that with your performance in mock trial. So I've highlighted in yellow the positive, the happier emotional moments, and in orange, the more sad emotional moments. And again, you want both of those. You don't just want a linear approach. You want to have the happy and the sad. So here's some of the examples of the happier emotions I highlighted. See, I've always wanted to be a doctor. In fact, Gruber Memorial Hospital was named after my great-grandmother, Helga Gruber. My whole life has been devoted to carrying on the family name. I had the opportunity to shadow this doctor. She really opened my eyes to how impactful doctors can be on their patients' lives. So I think as this witness is talking about these sorts of things, again, these great opportunities, I want to be a doctor, I want to help people. This helps plant a seed in the jury's mind that this is a good person, this is someone that they should trust, this is someone who's wanting to make an impact on their community. And so I think you can put a witness on the stand with lines like these and have them smile, have them, talk about, man, I always wanted to be a doctor, it was my dream, and that sort of natural smile comes out, again, to contrast some of the more sad things we're going to look at later. Let's look at some of the other things highlighted in yellow. I loved the residents at Maple Leaf Manor, and they loved me, even the ones who could not remember my name or called me something else. See, that's a line that you could almost verbatim have the witness deliver with a smile on their face. I love the residents that I work with, even the ones that didn't like me. Some of them called me names or called me someone else if they couldn't remember, but I loved working with them, right? A line like that's great. It's good for giving the witness a variety of emotion, but also it just makes the jury like them. That's part of what that variety of emotion is going to accomplish. All right, now let's get into the orange, which is the more negative emotions that we're dealing with. Upon his arrival, he determined to be Karl Goodenow, and people started talking about how I must have had something to do with old man Goodenow being hurt. So this is the witness realizing for the first time, oh no, this guy got hurt, he was strangled, and people were thinking that I did it. That's obviously a very visceral, emotional moment. A few weeks later, my mother received a phone call saying Mr. Goodenow passed away and I was being charged with a felony. What about my perfect GPA? What about med school? What about my future as a doctor? Our family was devastated. Now, again, it sounds a little bit bratty. What about my perfect GPA? What about med school? We don't want to lean into it in that way. But what you can do with a fact like this is have the witness go up there and say, look, I got a phone call saying that I was being charged with a felony. And that was crushing because I had a perfect GPA. My med school plans, it all fell away. Right? You can have a dramatic moment like that with a witness with facts like that. Here we go. I found out the prosecutor is trying to charge me as an adult. I had to give an interview and told the examiner the same story I told police. Again, that same emotion I was just kind of working with. And then afterwards I found out that they're trying to charge me as an adult. So I got an interview. I told the same, it's these negative emotions, this sadness that you really want to play into in addition to the positivity. So before we talk about what I do next, I want to remind you that my book, Mock Trial Masterclass, is available on Amazon. And this is a guide for direct examination. There's plenty more in here about directs, but also every other part of succeeding in mock trial, both as an attorney and as a witness. It's everything I've learned in my 10 years of competing in and coaching mock trial. And if you want to pick up a copy, you can click the link in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on podcast platforms. So, with a defendant direct, once I have gone through the affidavit, the witness statement, looking for the positive emotion, the negative emotion, and also the big facts are going to help our side of the case, I'm going to do exactly what I do with the victim directs, and I'm going to draw out that emotional arc. Here's an example of what that looks like we saw in the other video. And what this is it's me sitting down and saying, okay, how can I weave in the happy emotions with the sad emotions so we have some balance, so it's not just a linear line of emotion? And then at the same time, how can I build up the facts throughout this direct so that the emotional peak, comes at the time where it needs to, where we've really built up to that emotionally. In this case, I would probably say that emotional peak needs to be the moment that she realized she's being charged with a felony. That's the big emotion that we just looked at a second ago. And so that's where I'm kind of want the whole direct to build toward. And then once I've mapped that out, I sit down and I write out the direct, because that's my roadmap for where I want to go. And I fill in other details from the rest of the witness statement, maybe things I haven't highlighted as needed. But the big thing to remember with the defendant direct is that no matter what, you have to have the defendant deny doing whatever it is they're accused of doing, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case. Pretty much every defendant direct that I write for mock trial starts out with some variation of questions like, have you been in the courtroom throughout the trial? Have you heard what the prosecution or the plaintiff is accusing you of? Did you do it? Did you strangle an old man? Did you get mad because he wouldn't eat the food he was supposed to eat and strangle him? No, right? Give the defendant a chance to deny doing the crimes that they're accused of. You would think that'd be an obvious thing, but you see a lot of teams that forget to do that. So make sure you have your defendant get the opportunity to deny the crime. Beyond that, just follow your emotional arc, follow the points that you highlighted going through the affidavit like I did, and you'll be in great shape.